everybody. Guess who I brought along with
Hi.
me? I've got Azure with me. Eowyn couldn't make the bingo for this event, but she will be here later on tonight. So guess what? Hooked in Azure to join us. So, and it's really cool that you're here, Azure, because as we talk about this Cemeterist Project on WikiTree, some changes have been made to where it resides on WikiTree, and everybody knows Azure is one of the one place studies. You'll see her coordinating all of everybody's one place studies for the past several years, and cemeteries now come under one place studies. So we're going to talk about that in the second half after our first bingo card. And I just want to say hello to everybody. And if you need a bingo card, I did put it in the chat. I'm going to do it one more time, probably more than that, and make sure that everybody has it that's coming in. We thank you guys for joining us with the projects bingo and WikiTree Friday, because not only do we get to share the different projects within WikiTree, we learn too. So we like it too, because we learn from you guys. We learn also from the project leaders of all the projects. And if you guys have any projects that you would like to see, drop us a hint. We will go out to the project and see if they can come aboard. I know that we have a couple planned at the end of the month that are kind of pop-up surprises. So be back in 2 weeks for that as well. But let's go ahead and get started. So everybody get your bingo card ready. And let's talk about the Cemeterist Project. And I need to also mention we might have a pop-in surprise guest. So I won't say who unless they pop in and he'll say. So I think the Cemeterist Project is the second project I joined. I think I joined Military and War first to add some of my Civil War people from Virginia, West Virginia. But I think the Cemeterist is probably the second one I've joined. It seems popular.
Yeah, I think it was one of the first ones I joined as well.
And I want to say, and I could be wrong about this, so everybody fact check me, but from just being on WikiTree since 2016, that's Reese's, everybody. I think Reese's and Amazon, man, they don't like each other. So I think though the Cemeterist Project, from being on WikiTree since 2016, to me was one of the first projects that came out and really kind of organized itself, became more detailed, had a plan of action. And I think that's kind of what led me to join them as well, because there's a lot of discussion about it. So I think that was one of the first that WikiTree kind of tackled to kind of flesh out and get it all together. It's interesting to me because I have always gone with a camera back in the day. Now that we've got cell phones, you don't need as much, but I've always gone with a camera in the back of my car to stop at a cemetery if I see something on travels or around the road or anywhere I'm traveling, and I would stop and I would photograph the tombstone. I didn't GPS it way back in the day. That was something we didn't do too much way back in the day. And my mother thinks I'm totally insane for doing this. So I asked, what'd you do this weekend? Well, I walked the cemetery. Whose? I don't know. I just saw it. So for those of you that are similar to me, welcome. you're with like people. So a couple things that I want to mention about the Cemeterist Project, specifically due to my story, is there are different ways that you can be members with this. So some people might not be able to go out to a cemetery and document it and survey it and photograph it, but they take the information and will gladly transcribe the photos and the information, create a WikiTree profile for it, and then look up sources. So that's a different way that you can help too. So when you think about the Cemeterist Project, don't think that you are required to go out to the cemetery to photograph it, to detail GPS it, to do all this detail, then come in and bring those hundreds of photos into WikiTree, create those hundreds of photos within a day for profiles, and source. You have people within the project that will help you do that. Or if you can't get out to do it, or you don't prefer to do it, I know some people like working with cemeteries, but they don't want to go visit them. They would rather just do the sourcing and bios. You've got that too. So keep
Yeah,
in mind.
that's the power of WikiTree is the collaboration, is not having to do everything yourself, but ha- have somebody else help you.
It really is, because I can tell you this particular project, if you went out to survey a cemetery and pick any cemetery around your town or that you know of or your ancestors, take every photograph and then come in. And you usually do have to edit those photographs because you've got them, a whole bunch of information in them, or you want to make them clear. Then come in and do those profiles and then source. You're so right, Azure. It's a lot. And collaboration is the key with this project. And I will
Yeah.
say that I know that a lot of people that are members of this project, they really do have a good time working with each other. They enjoy seeing the different cemeteries. They enjoy looking at sources. They enjoy the mysteries of it. So they have a really, really good time working with each other. So when you join, and let me back up. I'll go slow this time, so I don't want to get anybody Virgo. Just like every other project with WikiTree, there's on the main project page, there's this nice box here, and it says how to join. And so what you would do is you would go to the G2G post and let them know you would like to join, and they will get you all hooked up with that. Now, what you need to tell them, though, is how you would like to be a member. What type of member would you like? So you've got the elements, and they're talking about the ground operations. That's where you do go and take the pictures. Then you would load the pictures up on what they call a sandbox, which is really just a space page. And you would load all 100 photos up on that space page. And then someone from the Cemeterist Project will take them and then one by one create profiles, source, give a biography, and add that photo to it. And that's going to be more your data operations. And then they also have another level, which is the affiliate status, that really kind of goes, and the profiles that are there that might have a find a grave, that don't have sources, that don't have any information. I will say this, you will see this a lot around the thons. People will go and create profiles for the thons with just a find a grave link, and that's it. Their information about their births, their locations, their deaths, and the find a grave. So the affiliate would actually go in and help with that as well. And a lot of people ask, and I know that you've probably seen this question a lot too, is why are we doing this? We have Find a Grave. So why are we doing this? And this is probably one of the biggest questions that we get. Well, here's our entire amount of cemeteries that are in WikiTree that have categories. I guess that's the best way to put it. So every link or number that you see here has a category page for a cemetery in WikiTree. And the map is telling me that there are over 76,000 cemetery pages, categories in WikiTree. And that sounds like a lot, but it's really not. It really isn't. So keep that in mind. So why is this kind of important, and how does this relate to why we're doing this and why we're not just going to Find a Grave to do everything with Find a Grave? And Steve has given us the perfect answer for that. So let me take this off bold so you guys can read it too. So when you go to Find a Grave, if you think about it, you've got a memorial, you have the birth dates, the death dates, the location if you're lucky. You have the tombstone picture if you're lucky. Some people also include a picture of the person, maybe the obituary. A lot of people like to include a death certificate on Find a Grave as well. It is rare that you're going to find a full biography on Find a Grave.
Very rare.
I mean, I will tell you, even with my own ancestors, I'm guilty of the same thing. So, I mean, it is very rare. If you're lucky, you will also find connections to parents, to spouse, to siblings, to kids on Find a Grave. But I can tell you, after doing the WikiTree's recent rock event, I have connected so many parents and siblings and children and spouses on Find a Grave that were not connected at all on Find a Grave. So again, if you can find a biography, if you can find full links to the family members on Find a Grave, you're very, very lucky. And it just means that that particular memorial manager on Find a Grave spent the extra time to do that. That's it. That's what you get on Find a Grave. That's pretty much it. Now, why are we doing this then on WikiTree? You guys might say, well, this is going to be a duplicate of what's there. And it's not. Trust me, it's so not. So I want you to think about one profile and pick somebody recent. Take a grandparent, for example. So for my grandmother, if I take her cemetery, and I have it here, it's Point Mountain Cemetery in of course, Appalachia, but in West Virginia. So I have the photos of the cemetery. I can show you a picture where it is. I can. These are all pictures that I've taken. This is all kind of old school back in the day too. I might add that when Cemeterist Project was originally created, the space pages that you had, and for those of you that are old timers with this project, you'll know exactly where I'm headed. We also did tables back in the day. Tables are no longer required, and I will tell you, thank goodness, because that was my biggest obstacle for the entire cemetery. We used to back in the day create entire tables. Okay, so think about this. So think about your grandparent. This is my grandmother's. So if I go here, if it was on Find a Grave, again, I might see a picture. I might see a picture of her tombstone and of her lovely face. I might get connections to all her family, and I might not. But if I come over to WikiTree, not only can I see everybody that's going to be connected to her family, and she might not be related to all these people, and that's fine too. I will bring up her mother. There you go. There's my grandmother. So what I get here that I don't get on Find a Grave, easy peasy. Not only do I get all the information that you have on Find a Grave, but I get a little bit of the DNA connection. You don't see that elsewhere, and see who else could be related. I also get these lovely categories. These categories are fabulous. So think about this for a second. So I have a one name study under her birth name. I have that. I have a place study that I can relate and connect her to. I have categories. So she's from Webster Springs, West Virginia. I can connect her to that, and I can also see who else is from that town and connect them. It's so important when you're trying to find family, but for particularly cemeteries, it's really important for those that died young. Because a lot of times Find a Grave will not put them up there because they can't verify the information. As opposed to WikiTree, we can put them up here because we have research notes that we can put and say we might not have the tombstone, or we might not have the birth or the death. We might only have one of those, but we have research notes that we can put to connect them together. Again, the power of WikiTree. We've got other projects that we can bring in to connect this profile. And then we also are talking about the census. So I can see who lived next door if I'm looking for a missing relative, because back in the day, especially when we're talking pioneers, they lived near each other. Their families all connected and lived near each other. So this is the main reason why we do what we do. And a lot of people think that we duplicate our work on Find a Grave, but we do so much more than that with this project. So if you have ancestors, I really, really encourage you to join the project. Fill out your ancestors' profiles. Fill them out with as much information as you can. If you don't have all the information, research notes it's a gold mine for people that are researching. If you have family cemeteries, we like to call these hidden family cemeteries, where you may not have a real tombstone. You may just have a rock. Yeah. That's another reason why this is important, because we can explain who that person was, the life they led, instead of just seeing a rock with no names. And again, if you go over to another site, you're lucky if you get the rock. At that point. So I definitely want to encourage everybody to join the project. And again, in different ways. If you could go out and survey and photograph, fabulous. If you can't, and you just want to help out by adding profiles to the in those pictures to the profiles, sourcing, biography, documenting, that is a tremendous help. I will not lie. I can tell you, and I get a lot of grief from it from another project that I'm in. I have over 10,000 photos that should be on Find Your Grave or WikiTree or both, and I don't have the time to create the profiles for them. So that's where I get a little, taken back, and I kind of put it on the back burner. So keep that in mind. If anybody wants to just help out the project by creating profiles, please sign up. We definitely need you guys to sign up. Okay, and I want to make sure that everybody has their first bingo card. It's posted in the chat. Scroll back if you need to. It's there, and let's look at a couple of questions. So, and I won't be able to answer everything like Steve does, because Steve is the true knowledge of this project. So if we can't get the answer to you, definitely reach out to Steve. He's really great about responding. So Steven says, kind of wish the coordinates could be added for each gravestone. If I recall, it only identified the cemetery via GPS.
Yeah, that's what this map is. It's just the coordinate that's added to the category info box for each cemetery category.
There we go. So if it's entered, then they're going to enter it behind the scenes. Excuse me. So then when you click here, you will see it come up.
Yeah.
So, okay, good.
That's what they're using to create that map, that cemetery map.
And I would say that would work for Stephen, wouldn't it? Would it, Stephen?
Well, for the cemetery map that you showed before, that's pulling from the category of cemeteries.
And from this box?
Yeah.
It's pulling from everybody that put in the GPS here in this category box. Yeah, then it's going to pull and place it there.
Yeah, so I think Stephen's talking about each headstone. So that's per profile. So,
and I know some do.
That's a whole nother level of mapping. I know there are programs out there. I played around with a couple different things. It does take a lot more kind of work, but yeah, definitely add the GPS coordinates to the monumental inscription that you add to the profile. There's a place in the monumental inscription that you can put the GPS coordinate for that headstone that you can get from your photo. And there are programs, if you don't know how to get that, just there are programs that you can get the coordinates from that picture that you took.
And I want to say also that on your phone, it's now automatically leaving that too.
Well, most cameras now have them. Even for, I don't even know how many years back they had GPS coordinates added to the metadata of the image. So even some older images, if you pull them into different programs, you can get the GPS data from them.
And then Teresa says some of the best photos are taken in cemeteries. I would agree, and I will tell you that I have found my sweet spot to be about an hour to 2 hours before sunset is when I get my best photos. If I go right at high noon or early in the day, I get a lot of shadows and a lot of washout. Let's see, my youngest grandson would holler when he spotted a cemetery, even when he's a toddler. Paul, your grandson knew you. Said, stop. Let's see. And then Stephen, I have an earlier book of folks buried in our local cemetery. And this is popular too. When I was hoping to locate overgrown markers with my metal detector. That's a fabulous thing.
That is awesome, because I have in my cemetery that I do, there are several that I know I found a few just by digging down where I thought they would be.
Yeah.
And I found the headstone buried under grass and dirt. So that's a good idea. I didn't think about using a metal detector to find
And
those
and I
markers.
can say that even if they were cremated, then you can still use mention that, and there's a category for that as well. So you can put
Yeah.
that on the profile along with the information that they were cremated. This also goes hand in hand with cenotaphs. I have an uncle that was cremated. There is a cenotaph in a cemetery that was nearby. And again, this is where WikiTree, I think, has the gold standard with this, because on the other site, they thought that was a tombstone and it wasn't. And I was able to profile him on WikiTree and explain that it was a cenotaph because he was cremated. And I was able to add the category for cremation as well. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. I'm confused about free space. About free space. Is that what we would use? How do we make them? Jen, hold on to the end after the second bingo card, because we're going to show you a little bit more information with this, and also how Cemetery Project kind of works with a category in a free space page. I think they started to move away from the free space pages for a bit, but it really works best when you have both a category and a free space page. So hang tight with me. Y'all don't let me forget to answer this Jen's question a little bit later on. And Stephen said that he found on Finding Grace, some of my relatives are listed as barrier, but there's no marker. I could tell you from my experience, we have old family cemeteries where lumber companies have come in and bought the land, or the land has been sold off. It used to be farmers sold off, and we had rocks, and those rocks were moved. And so it's pretty much a lost cause to try and find without a marker. It's really tough for some of our older and our pioneers. Let's see, some of the stuff, here's a good example. Some of the stones have lots of stuff growing on them, and that's pretty much, I think, the way it is. Let's see, I use a small tub with small tools: shears, rake, trowel, gloves, whisk, broom, that I carry to clean off stones with. Paul, I do something similar, and actually I have I guess, annoyed my husband enough with stopping at cemeteries along our ways that he actually did it. And we also have a product called D2, not advertising it. It's just something that a lot of cemeteries use. When we're talking about tombstones, we might as well talk about how to be respectful for them. And I want to thank Paula for reminding me on that. Please do not do pencil rubbings. Do not throw flour on, baking flour on tombstones. Do not use bristle brushes. These are fragile things. You really should not pick and peel. You guys call it moss. You should not pick and peel anything off. You should not take a pencil eraser and try and erase. I've seen and heard crazy, crazy things over time. The best thing to do is leave it alone. If you really, really want to clean it, no soap, please, no soap. Soap will damage a tombstone as well. But if you really want to clean, please make sure that you have permission to do so. A lot of times we'll go into cemeteries and think that we have permission to do so because it's a public cemetery, but we do not have permission to just randomly clean tombstones. There is product out there. I mentioned it. I would Google search it. It's available at every store. It's like a spray and come back in a week type thing. But please get permission before you start going on people's lands or even public cemeteries. Just be careful. And that's pretty much what, Stephen, that's pretty much the product that I was mentioning as well. That it's under its different name, I guess. And I agree. A water. And as Paul is saying, a bottle of water. I want to mention a bottle of water for two reasons. She's not saying soap. She's not saying that she's using something, some chemical or anything like that on it. She's saying a bottle of water just to spray it down and try and get some of the dirt off. But a bottle of water is also important for the human because it gets hot out there when you're going and surveying the cemeteries. It gets really, really hot. Let me put up the bingo card one more time. And I'm going to share with you some information while you guys get the first bingo card up that Steve wanted me to share. And it's pretty cool stuff. So he wanted me to let you, and I'm going to get this wrong, so I apologize. He wanted me to mention two cemeteries. Wadi al-Salam is Arabic for Valley of Peace, and this is the largest cemetery in the world. It can be mistaken as a sprawling city from the satellite photo. And let me show you what he's talking about. There it is.
That's so crazy.
I mean, this is like just amazing. This is like, I look how far it goes back. Let me increase this a little bit so you guys can see it.
Wow.
I mean, this just goes. So, who wants to go take their camera and survey?
Oh my goodness.
It's just amazing. And you think about it, some of them are double. Yeah, some of them are probably stacked or nearby. This is just an amazing cemetery. So this is the one that he said that a lot of people think of it as a city. He goes, this is located in Iraq. The cemetery is over 1,400 acres and contains, well, let me ask you guys, anybody want to take a guess how many interments? I will tell you it's in the million. You got to go at least a million.
I have to say millions, somewhere in the millions.
And I mean, and it's going back all the way here, and it's going all the way back here. So it's pretty large. The cemetery has been in constant use, accepting burials for over 1,400 years. I mean, that's just amazing. And to let you know, it has over 6 million burials.
Wow.
I just am blown away by this. And for 1,400 years, I wonder if they truly have a record of
everybody there.
Yeah, because when we go to modern day cemeteries, like let's take Arlington, they have a record so they can point you where to go. So it's amazing. Okay, now the second cemetery that he wanted me to bring up, let's see, here we go. I'll show you this. Let me show you the small part. This is it, really, really small. And I'm going to get it wrong. So if I have anybody from the Germany project in, feel free to help me pronounce this. So this is the Gross Friedenwald Cemetery. And this is one of the oldest cemeteries with burials dating back to the Mesolithic era, 7,000 plus years. Wow. 7,000 years ago. Somebody was buried there and they have it documented.
That is so crazy.
I know. I can't even imagine. It includes notable burials of a 6-month-old child, a man who was buried upright, and while not the oldest remains ever found, it is the first time to find many burials of the same time period, since these would have been nomads. These were hunter-gatherers who never stayed in one place.
Wow.
And it's this whole outline area that you see here. And this is one of the oldest. And National Geographic actually found some of the mysterious graves and documented it. And it's the German cemetery. It's named after a nearby village. I just can't believe how far back they were able to find this.
Crazy.
It's really interesting because, Stephen, you could go there with your metal detector. It might not find anything, but if you had a sonar detector, you could probably find a lot more for them too. It's amazing. And yes, the other cemetery is in Iraq. Okay, let me go back then and tell you just a few more tips, and then we're going to play the first bingo card. So a few more tips that Stephen wanted me to make sure to tell you guys is that most members are what we call grave rabbits. You guys can drop in the chat what you think a grave rabbit is, and I'll tell you before we start the bingo card what it is according to the members of the Cemeterist Project on WikiTree. There are over 80,000 cemetery categories right now in WikiTree. And then we said that over 76,000 were actually mapped. So what that means is we need to get the GPS numbers for those that are missing. But there are over 80,000 cemetery categories. And again, he wanted me to just mention that Find a Grave and the Cemeterist Project are vastly different. They have similarities, but they are different. While Find a Grave's mission is to find, record, and present the final disposition information as a virtual cemetery experience, one area they seem to fall short in is how their data is managed, confirmed, validated, and or fact-checked. And I didn't even think about that, Azure. That's a whole different area that we're talking about. This virtual cemetery experience winds up placing more focus on the individual cemeteries themselves and not the individual person, which is their facts, their bio, which we kind of talked about earlier, which this leads to many users would consider junk genealogy, consisting of incomplete, inaccurate, or otherwise erroneous data, which sources typically appear as an afterthought. And this is why a lot of projects, if you look at their reliable sources page and what they want for sources for each project, it's different. On WikiTree, a lot of the projects do not really want you to put on a profile only one source, and that one source would be Find a Grave, because it's not always accurate.
Yeah.
So when you're sourcing and everybody says, well, it's sourced, I have a Find a Grave, why did somebody add an unsourced tag to this profile? Now you know the answer. That's pretty much why. So this,
especially if there isn't a headstone photo.
That's true. And and then we get also the headstone photos could be a different dates. That is common. I would go with the documents versus the headstone photos. I could tell you right now, I could probably go ask my kid if I died today and he had to make a tombstone for me, I could ask my kid and say, what was my birthday and birth year? And he would not have a clue. He might remember the day, but he would not. So that's why the tombstones get it wrong sometimes. Okay.
Well, and then there are those that, they create an image of a headstone to just have a headstone image on there. It's not the actual headstone image. I don't know if you've seen those, but
I've only seen that like once or twice, and I had to look twice. Like, what am I looking at? What is the purpose of this? I would rather just be blank. But
yeah, it's really confusing.
And I will tell you too that I find that the Cemeterists on WikiTree are very kind and happy bunch, and I'll leave it at that. But Steve also wanted to let you know that the Cemeterist Project is backed by the collaborative power WikiTree, which, as I mentioned earlier, strives to take the same simple idea to new levels, promoting the accuracy. We're talking about sources, collaboration. Other people can come in and help with a biography or maybe take a photo that's not there, and sourcing standards that we've all come to know and expect from a genealogy platform such as WikiTree. WikiTree members, but the Cemeterist Project members focus not only on the creation of the profiles but photographing it, cemetery units, transcribing the information that's on the tombstone presented, creating and maintaining a cemetery space and category page. And remember, we're going to talk about that a little bit later, as well as providing resource and sources for both the individual and the family alike. And I couldn't say it any better than Steve. And Steve loves this project. So I just love it. I love being able to do research notes, biographies, and categories. This is, and then you throw in the DNA element that WikiTree has, and this is the power of WikiTree. It really, really is. Okay. And good night, Mindy. The thing to remember is that family members are generally full of grief and often make small mistakes, even if they have the right dates. And that is true. Yeah. And Mindy just reminded me of something else. And I love this because Mindy reminds me of this a lot, this particular thing a lot. And I love this. Also, if somebody died yesterday, let's not be rushing to put a profile up in WikiTree. Let's let the family and the members grieve a bit. They probably don't want to do a web search and see that some unknown person put up a profile up on WikiTree. Now, if this is your parent or grandparent, your sibling, your child, something like that, where you have a close relationship, that's different. But if it's an unknown stranger, let's try and be respectful and give some space. And when I say the word space, I mean years. Let's not be throwing up a lot of people that recently died. In the cemetery surveying world, we call that trolling obits. Let's not do that. Let's be respectful, and I think that would be the best way to describe that a bit.
Yeah.
Okay. I found birth certificates, death certificates be wrong also. We had to change. Yeah, I believe that too. I believe it too. And again,
because it's whoever is there
Yep.
filling out the information, and they could have it wrong in their head, or like Mindy said, they're grieving. Maybe they just start thinking it through, or there's so many. It's human error.
It really is. Okay, bingo. Everybody ready? Like I said, I guarantee you, my kid is so brilliant in so many ways. But when it came to saying, yes, I know the birth year, no, he wouldn't know. Sometimes I wonder if he knows his birth year, but he's probably watching and come like, Mom. Okay, everybody ready for bingo? Let me bring up the correct bingo. Okay, and I learned some new words. So thank you, Steve, for learning words. Now, how to play bingo. And I'm sorry, I know we're running late, but this is a lot of good information. So how to play bingo. So bingo is use your mouse as a dabber. You can either get all the way across, all the way down, or diagonal. I don't believe there's a free space, but if there is a free space in these, go ahead and mark that right now. The first person who gets bingo has to be the first person to type it in the chat. And I say this every time. You all know me. I get to talking. So, feel free, type it in caps, bingo, type bingo, 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 whatever it is. And everybody, please keep saying, Sandy, you got a bingo, in case I miss it. But remember again that if you've won in the past 6 months, you are not eligible to win yet. After 6 months, you can try again. And this is awesome. WikiTree is actually giving prizes away for each bingo card. So this is the first one that you'll be able to win a prize on, and it's up to $30 from the WikiTree store. So it's really awesome. I don't think there's any other live cast that's doing that right now. So see how special we are. Oh, and Azure, do you have your mug?
Oh, I forgot to have it ready.
We got the bingo mug, and Azure has the genealogy mug. Okay. And yeah, I would agree. But I'm not a grandma yet, so I'm just going to claim your excuse too, Mindy. At least I better not be yet. Okay. So here we go, guys. We're going to go through this pretty quick. Some of these words you know really, really well. So everybody keep up. We've got burial. Ossuary, and this one I had to look up. A container or room in which the bones of the dead are placed. And this might be, we were talking with Mindy actually about the Portugal project, and this might be something that she's more familiar with. Oh, that's cool. Got American Mutt shirt this week. See, now I got to wait until I can win. And our friend from Ireland's here.
Hi, John.
Okay, crypt. Okay, guys, I'm going to go through this pretty quick. Cenotaph. And we talked about this. A lot of times when people are cremated, they still want to have, the loved ones want to have a place maybe to visit, to place flowers. So a cenotaph is just like usually some type of information. Mostly in my family, it's a flat marker just to say that they were on this earth with their dates. Grave. I think we all know what that one is. Mortuary. And I will tell you, Camille brought up, if you ever have a chance to go, in Italy as well has them. The catacombs are amazing. And yes, my mother would look at me, you did what? When you went to Paris? Epitaph. Graveyard. Lots of different graveyards, cemeteries. To me, they're potato, but usually cemeteries are a little bit bigger in my mind. The graveyards are a little bit smaller. And
isn't a graveyard from a church and a cemetery
usually, but we do a lot of family cemeteries. We'll call them graveyards that are out in the middle of nowhere. And Stephen, you better show your bingo mug on Zoom later. And Aaron, this is what Reese's the dog does on my computer. Okay, casket. One thing I did not mention, and I should have mentioned, I'll show you a quick picture afterwards. The whole idea of ceremonies and caskets is going green, and I'll show you an example of a green casket. It's very popular down here in Georgia. It might be because we also have Georgia clay, Georgia mud, and it's kind of tough. Sarcophagus makes me go back to my high school education, thinking about all the Greeks, the Romans. Urn, this is typically what people put ashes in. Kurgan, this was a new one too, but for me, a kurgan is a type of tumulus, and tumulus is a mound of earth, but is a type of tumulus constructed over a grave, often characterized by containing a single human body along with grave vessels, weapons, and horses. So
that's a new one for me.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Oh, it looks like Tarinda has bingo.
Oh, there we go. We got a bingo. Awesome. Okay. So let me tell you how to win your prize. This is the most important part, right? So to win your prize, you're going to want to email Eowyn and tell her that you won the first bingo of today, and just tell her the Cemetery Project, and she'll know which one. Let me write your name down so I don't forget to. So you're going to email her. She's going to get back in touch with you on how to get your prize. And I think she basically shares with you the store and tells you have like $30, up to $30 to spend. So it's a really good prize. And as you've seen, some people have gotten shirts, some people have gotten tote bags, and some people have gotten the mug. And I have been told the mug is back in stock. It wasn't in stock for a while, so you can do that. So congratulations. That's pretty cool. Tarinda, are you a member of the Cemeterist Project already or here to learn? That's pretty cool. Okay, well, let's go ahead then and let's talk about this change that happened with cemeteries. Oh, wait, before I do that, I will show everybody. This is an example of a green burial, and basically no chemicals are added. The body's placed in a cotton shroud in a casket that can be broken down through time and is environmentally safe, I think is the best way to put it. But let's talk about the big change with cemeteries, because this was a big change that happened. And I'm going to let Azure explain how cemeteries is still a project. I don't want to say it's not a project, but it moved.
And it is still a top level project in its own sense, but it is under, because cemeteries are place studies. When we're studying that one place and the people that are there, so that's why it got moved to be a type of a study in November of 2021. And in July of 2022, it became a sub-project of the One Place Studies project. So it kind of happened over a period of time there. So yeah, that's what the big change was. It didn't really affect anything too much. It's just that now when you go to One Place Studies main category, you'll see cemeteries there.
And
as
I think it's
a type
important.
of study.
I think it's important to note because I noticed that on your G2G post for One Place Studies, a lot of people will say, I want to set up this cemetery. So if
Yeah.
I have a new cemetery that I want to set up, do I do One Place Studies? Do I do cemeteries? Where do I go?
Right. So so we just provide them with the link to the Cemeterist Project join post, because that's where you'd want to go, is through to the Cemeterist Project.
And then how do I make the cemetery a One Place study?
Well, you don't need to do anything actually. It's already under the main category for One Place Studies.
Okay.
So if you go to that category,
Mm-hmm.
that top category of One Place Studies,
Up
go back to the project page there.
here?
And no, for One Place Studies. Or you can just click, there. And then scroll down. No, I mean,
Yep.
If you scroll up
Yeah.
a little bit to the tabs, sorry.
Oh, okay.
There you go. So OPS by type and location, the tab for that first tab. So see there that the first little section there is showing you the different types of One Place Studies, and cemeteries is that right. That's where it's nested. But if you click into cemeteries, there you go. It's also its top level category. So it's a little bit confusing, but it is just part of One Place Studies that way.
So you're just kind of giving, even though, like you said, cemeteries is still a top level project, you're just nestling it under the One Place Studies, as it makes a little bit sense to categorize a cemetery as one place. I guess is the best way to say it.
It definitely is. We're studying that one place and the people that are buried there. So it definitely is covered by that.
Let me put up the email one more time there we go. And if I have a cemetery already set up as One Place Study, would I also go and add it to the oneplacestudies.com website as well? Or do they do cemeteries as well?
Oh, you mean the One Place Studies directory?
Yeah.
The free online directory?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they list cemeteries there. So you can add your cemetery space page there.
And then the one other thing that I want to mention, this isn't necessarily just One Place Studies, but it does help, is every profile that you see, I don't have it up here, but Alas has a cemetery report that shows all the profiles within a cemetery, and also the ones that are profiles that list a cemetery in the biography that need the category to it. And for example, I have here Point Mountain Cemetery, my grandmother's. So what you want to do, here's a little, I guess, a little way to cheat. Instead of doing the WikiTree reports, you can come over. Let me find the category real quick. There we go. On every category, cemetery category page, right here for WikiTree Plus, there's a detailed report. And if I click on it, it'll give me the information for this particular cemetery based on the data that is in a profile. So for example, no find a grave memorial is defined in these here, but somewhere it's either got a category of Point Mountain Cemetery and it doesn't have a find a grave link, or somebody says that they are buried in the bio, they're buried in Point Mountain Cemetery, but again, it doesn't have the source of the link. And then you'll see here, these include the ones that do have the links.
And then he has it the other way around too, where there is the Find a Grave Memorial citation pointing to that cemetery, but there's not the category for that cemetery.
And I will tell you that one of the Appalachia projects what we've been doing this year is we've been tackling that exact issue. So we've been going to these reports. We pick a cemetery, we click on this link right here, easy peasy, and it'll say partial. It'll have the word partial. We know that whole section means we've got to just add the category from WikiTree. Category's already set up. We don't need to set up the category. It's already set up. We just need to add it. So WikiTree Plus, and I will tell you for WikiTree Plus, it's awesome. And the best thing I can tell you about this is every Wednesday, the first Wednesday of every month, I should say, definitely do the live cast with Les because he explains WikiTree Plus in ways I can never do.
And I just added the link for that playlist on the WikiTree's YouTube channel. There's a playlist for those Ask Alesh videos.
That is the best way to learn WikiTree Plus. I think we could do a half day on WikiTree Plus as well. and your mind would be amazed at how much data. It's basically what WikiTree Plus doing is data mining. It's you put in a request and it's going to go through the profiles and categories and mine the data for you. Let me put up the second bingo card. My apologies, I was a little late on that. And we're going to talk a little bit about that space page and the category page while you guys get your bingo card up. So if I have, as Azure mentioned that we have to add the category, what happens if this particular profile that I have my grandmother did not have the cemetery in WikiTree? How do I add a cemetery category and what are the rules? There are some rules with this. You should definitely review the Cemeterist page for categories. It is up here. It gives category advice. It's a tab. Definitely review this page. If you do anything today, definitely come to the Cemeterist Project and review this page because it's like a gold mine of information. It's very specific, the information that they want. So how do I do this? If I have a profile, which I have here, and I notice if I scroll down, here are my list of categories, but it doesn't have a cemetery category. Well, maybe I don't know where she's buried at. And then I look down and I see the sources and I go, nope, she's buried right there. I should add the category to this profile. So what I do, if I see something like this in WikiTree, I just kind of copy the name of the category and the town name, which this is. I'll come up under edit. So I'll edit the profile. And remember, categories are always above the biography line. Click on this little file folder system here. Brings up a box to search. I'll click paste and just hit the space bar. Nothing happened. So you know what that tells me? That tells me that this particular cemetery is not in WikiTree. And I'll show you another example. We've been showing my grandmother. So if I put in Point Mountain Cemetery, and you'll see, look, it drops down. That category is there in WikiTree. And all I got to do is select it, save the profile, and I'm done. But this isn't Point Mountain. This one is Rittenhouse Cemetery in Sardis. How do I create the cemetery? I'm too scared. I'm too nervous. I don't know the rules. This is a little bit too technical for me. I really don't want to do this. I really just want to work on profiles and adding a biography, and I don't want to mess up. These are all things that we hear for people that don't want to create the categories. So I've got a real quick, easy trick for you. All you got to do is when you're in edit, scroll down and you'll see my computer's acting a little weird. There you go. How to add categories. That's because we've got it a little too.
Yeah.
Okay. How to add categories. It's down towards the bottom right. And all you got to do, the very last thing says request a new category or advice. This is so easy to do. Just click on it. It brings up, let me try again. Sorry, guys, I had a draft. Click on it. And it brings up G2G. And it already has the profile in there. Then what I like to do is I will add this advice for cemetery categorization, because then that will kind of parse it for people looking, and they'll go, oh, this is an easy cemetery cat setup. Let me do it. It has all the information that you have here. I might also add in here cemetery category. And then down here, I will also add, just click on it where it says cemeteries.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then all I got to do is ask the question, and somebody will come along, another WikiTree member volunteer will come along and add that cemetery. So I'm going to go ahead and say ask the question. There we go. So again, if you're unsure, if you are unsure that there's even a category set up, you're just not sure because maybe the names are similar. There's a lot of family cemeteries. I will tell you, in my ancestors' hometown of Webster Springs, there are 6 Hamrick family cemeteries. If you're unsure which one, you can ask the category, ask G2G. G2G is a really good gold mine. There's experts around that can help you. If you just don't want to create that category because you're nervous, it's too technical, you're not sure how to do it, you want to make sure it's right, then all you got to do is come down, and where it says an edit, ask G2G. That's all you got to do. And like I said, just mention and type in the cemetery and you've got it. And thank you, Eileen. She's reminding us too. Everybody give a thumbs up. And Mindy. There we go. Appreciate you guys. Okay. And this is where I need to mention too, for cemeteries, if you get confused with creating the category, sometimes the cemetery is not in a town, it's in a county. So for this one, it was Rittenhouse Cemetery in Sartis, Harrison County. Sartis is the town, but sometimes, a lot of times, category or cemeteries are not in town. So what you would do then is you would do Rittenhouse Cemetery, Harrison County, and then look for that too. So when you're looking for the category under the edit, make sure to look under town and also county. Thank you, Paula. And then how should I handle a burial in what became a cemetery, but which happened before the cemetery was actually created? Let me think about this. Well, I will use Natalie's. She's really good with categories. I will use what she has always taught us on G2G. When you are using the location for a cemetery, you use the modern location, like now, versus an ancient or pioneer address. So in the same way, I think I would categorize this person in the cemetery that it is today. If I go with Nat's thinking of address and location and carry that through, I think that's what I would do. And I think that is it. Okay, so everybody have their bingo card up. Let's play our second bingo card. And what we're also going to do when we come back, if for those of you that already know how to do categories, space pages, and knows everything about it, you can head out. But for those of you that want to learn a little bit about the cemetery category and space pages, hang tight after the bingo, and we will get you hooked up. One thing I did not mention with the bingo is sometimes people give their bingo a pass. If they get bingo, then they say keep playing. So never close your bingo card down until we're sure we have a bingo. Again, vertical, horizontal, diagonal. If there's a free space in the middle, go ahead and dab that now. I don't think there is, but there might be. And whoever types bingo first is the winner. Okay, here we go, guys. So death certificate. A lot of times death certificates will not list where they're buried, but a lot of times they will. We're always happy when it lists. Okay, this is the cemetery that I showed you a picture of. That was the largest cemetery in the world. 1,400 acres, over 6 million burials. Wedgestone. This is I don't know. I think this was another cemetery that he gave me. I do not know for sure. Oh, and let me bring this up before I forget. That's true. Cemeteries do have start dates on them. If they do not have a start date, then the advice I gave of putting the burial in that cemetery would work. So I want to mention too, Susan, what I might do for you're not sure where to put your burial before the cemetery was created. If it does have a start date on the cemetery category page, then what I would do is take that profile to G2G and ask for advice. And I guarantee you, Steve or Natalie will probably come up with the best advice for that. Veterans, this is a really big cemeteries are known around the world for veterans. And I believe it's around the world, but I know in America it's wreath across America. So every Christmas, about 2 weeks prior, large groups of volunteers, scouts, and people in general will go and put wreaths on the tombstones of the veteran memorials. And it's a beautiful thing to do. Okay, green burial. We talked about that and showed you a tombstone for that. And Susan, who changes the oldest known burial date? You can go in and edit that, or you can seek advice on G2G. Karen, see, I know this as a dog, so I'm not sure how this one relates. I have my notes, but I'm not sure how this one relates to cemetery. So if anybody knows, let me know. This is where we get educated too, guys. You guys help us out. Companion plot. I like to think of this as a lot of times military, especially at Arlington, they bury together, but it could also be a companion plot where they're buried next to each other and you see the tombstones, one tombstone.
And a cairn is just can be a memorial. The a mound of rough stones.
Interesting.
As a memorial.
See, I'm thinking my family were too poor. We got one stone instead of a mound. Shiva, for those of you the Jewish faith, this is a very important moment to respect those who have gone. A memorial where family get together. Motif. This, I think, kind of also talks about the symbols that you see on cemetery gravestones. And for those of you that watched the Wiki Day presentation last November, I know Eric Wellington did a whole presentation on Freemasonry symbols on tombstones.
Mm-hmm.
Sexton, this is a worker of a cemetery. So if somebody's digging the grave, back in the day, we called them grave diggers. They now have a different name. Some locations have always been sexton, but most of us call them grave diggers. Awake, that happens after the funeral, usually after the burial. That's immediately after the burial. Oh, we got a bingo.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Mel. I love it that Mel got a bingo because also Mel does really awesome one place studies. And since we were talking about one place studies, this gives us an opportunity to mention again that the Cemeterist Project, still a top level project, came under one place studies. So Mel, what you're going to do is you're going to go and email Eowyn, and she's going to hook you up, unless you already know what you want. If you know you want a mug, or if you know you want the t-shirt, but either way, let her email you the information, because it has a store. There might be something there that you want that you didn't know that WikiTree offers. Like now, Teresa's got me all curious about the American Mutt t-shirt. The mug was it. So congratulations, Mel. That's awesome. Okay, is there anything else before we go into it? I know we're running a little late. Is there anything else that we can answer before we go into the category in the space page? Because I want to make sure that we answer that space page question. And for those of you sticking around, this will be real quick. So it's really an easy conversation. Let me bring up the space page. Okay, so I think the confusion was the space pages. What we have is we every cemetery or every profile, hopefully, that we know where they're buried has a cemetery category page, which is here. And to answer Susan's question, I will go off topic for just a second. You'll notice that the earliest burials, that's the start date and the end date. And we talked about GPS. This is where we enter that in. If we come back to that category, I was in edit mode. If I come back, this is where, because we have the category map, we can go to Google because we put in those GPS information. So every cemetery that is listed on that big map I showed at the beginning is because we have a GPS location in it. And I will say, I don't have the number. I wish Steve was here, but I will say that the over 80,000 cemetery category pages we have in WikiTree, not all of them have a matching space page. Sometimes categories are just created and space pages aren't. Why would space pages be created? I know that when I joined the project, it was if you create a category, you create a space page as well. And the reason being is the space page is where you list notable burials. You also list any details that you think people should know. For example, this particular cemetery does not have an office. So if you wanted to call and say, hey, could you tell me where this person's buried at Point Mountain Cemetery? There's no office. There's nobody to call. It's just a local cemetery, family cemeteries. And also things like what I try to do if I create a space page is when there's heavy snow or rain, you're not going to make it to the cemetery at all.
And Paula brings out a good point. There is on the project page, there's a tab there for cemetery pages where they have a template for creating a space page.
And it's literally, you just copy it, create a new space page, paste it in, and then fill in the blanks. What you don't need to do anymore, this was really old school. So if you come across cemetery in a space pages and you see a table, don't freak out. This was really at the beginning, like 2016. We don't do this anymore. If you want to, you can. It's a lot of work. I will tell you, you can see. I've been working on this since 2016 and I still need to link people. I know profiles are probably up there. I probably still need to do some profiles. I have a ton of photos that need to be up there. We don't do the tables anymore. So if you see the table, don't freak out. Don't get nervous that you got to do that. Really what you're working on is just giving people the information from the template, which is going to be where it is, about a history. Some people add the veterans, there's interments, and also notables.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what the space page is. And we connect them by making sure that the category page is listed on the space page. And then if I go back to the category page, I connect the space page here. And you do that under edit. So everything is, this is a template too, and everything is included on the cemeterist page.
And what I did when I first started was I looked at the example project pages that are, there's actually a category for cemetery example project pages, so that you can kind of take a look at what other people are doing, and kind of just copy and paste from their page to your page. That's what's so great about WikiTree is the collaboration and be able to learn from other people. Like for instance, for mine, the main page for my cemetery, it actually, because it broke, there's a map and it's broken out by sections. I have a different page for each section that's attached to the main page. And then on those section pages, that's where I have my tables of the different headstones.
That makes sense because it's not overwhelming on that one page.
On the first page, yeah.
Okay,
yeah, so definitely different ways to do things. Take a look at what other people are doing and learn, or just even ask in G2G or Discord.
Or if you've got a page that you really like, reach out to that person who created that page.
Yeah.
come up here and reach out to them. I will tell you that I fully admit the bingo winner Mel, I steal from her pages a lot. She does awesome work, and she puts up ideas that I have never thought of before for one place studies, for example. So I do that a lot, and like Ezra said, this is collaboration. So and reach out. I guarantee you too, if you see a cemetery page that needs help, needs work, needs profiles added, whoever the person is that created this page and working on the cemetery will not mind you helping. Trust me.
Not at all. They would love to have help. I know that for mine.
I know. I mean,
And
they could be really, really a monster, and because all you guys watch this Project Bingo, I get you excited with new projects. So then you'll start a new project, and you'll forget to come back to the Cemeterist one. So we're like, Azra and I are like, come on, help us out. If you see a one place study, a one name study, a cemetery that needs a profile added, feel free. You do not need a picture of the tombstone to add them to the cemetery page or to add a profile to WikiTree. I've heard that too, where people go, well, I don't have the picture of the tombstone. Not required. Sourcing required.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, good. So we're going to add a church cemetery. That's awesome, Eileen. And I will tell you, you guys have been working a lot. If you want to talk about some challenging cemeteries, the USBH project had some challenging cemeteries where they're trying to find the people that are buried there. And this also brings up another point that I mentioned slightly at the beginning. Please get permission to visit private cemeteries. Do not just assume that they are public and that you can go and take photos and do what you want with it, or clean tombstones, things like that. Please get permission. But I hope we
if you have if there's a picture on your ancestors' find a grave memorial, be sure that the person who's taking that photo has given explicit permission for the use of their photos on their page, or send them a message and be sure to ask before using that image, and make sure you put that in the picture. If they do give consent for use of their image, make sure to put that in the image comment.
And let me show you guys real quick too, which is really great, because not everybody, let me get down to the source, not everybody that manages the memorial page on Find a Grave is the person who also put the photo up.
Right.
So keep that in mind too. And a lot of times, if I can bring this up real quick, a lot of times what I do, you just click this view source button, it'll take you down here, and then you can cut and paste this if you want as a source, and it will tell you who maintains it, the contributor. But I will tell you that this particular person maintains this memorial, and I'm trying to figure out how that is since this is my grandmother. But she did not put up this photo. I did. So keep in mind also, and what you can do, there's always a link to the person who put the photo up. So I would go straight to the photo. What I do for mine is I put down that if I've uploaded a picture, you have permission. So make sure to check their profile. Sometimes you get lucky with that, but it's always, like Azra said, it's just common sense and polite to mention and ask the people who have the tombstone photos up there.
Yeah.
Okay. I know that this has been a lot of information, so I just want to leave everybody with this. Join the project. You will love it. You're doing the work anyway. You really are. You're adding the categories. You're adding the biographies. Sometimes it's just reaching out to somebody who has a photo and Find a Grave and asking if you can include that. In our project, the Appalachia Project, we actually have gone out in pseudo adopted a cemetery. So for example, Point Mountain Cemetery, I created on WikiTree. I kind of adopted and make sure that if anybody needs a category, I'll go and look once a month on the WikiTree reports that are on the category pages. I'll see if there's any new burials. I have all the photos, so I try to do that. So if you have like a grandparent or a sibling or anybody in your family that you want to kind of just look after on WikiTree, the cemetery category, I suggest you do that and just look at it once a month. Look at the reports once a month. If you need help creating a space page, definitely come over to the Cemeterist Project. Like Paula and Azure said, there is a template. If you need help further, reach out to the members of the Cemeterist Project. Reach out to Azure and myself. We've done them. We know what they are and how to point you in the right direction, because the space pages really do complement. And as Azure said, her cemetery is so large that she has different space pages linking into a main space page just to keep the information separate. And also, as we mentioned, we're always looking for help. So if you see cemeteries that need profiles created, jump in and make sure to add the categories. That's the main thing. Add the categories as well. Any other questions before we say goodbye? And I want to thank everybody for hanging in 15 minutes late. This is a huge project. I knew this one would be a little bit late. So I really appreciate you. And I really want to say shout out to Steve. This is, like I said, I think he would give up everything in WikiTree and just do Cemeterist if he was forced to. Glad he's not forced to, but he loves this so much. And definitely reach out to him. He has a fabulous family cemetery. That's why I was really hoping he would come up here too. He has a fabulous one. So before I leave, thank you everybody for joining. And if you're around in a couple hours at 6 p.m. Eastern tonight, an amazing bingo's coming up. This is tonight, I guess, the 14th, 15th, overnight, depending where you live, is the 111th anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic. And we have a special guest coming to tell us facts that I have never heard of, and I thought I knew a lot about the Titanic. So definitely come back. 2 more chances to win a mug. And I guess that's it. Azure, you got anything?
That was it.
That was it. Okay. Then I'll say bye, guys.
Bye.